first issue of the Turtles, we were, pretty sure that we wouldn't sell a single copy. And the fact that it actually worked and continued to grow as a series. And, in the early days, we used to think like, well, the title was the first thing people picked it up. They saw the title, it was sort of, what the hell is this? After they picked it up, it was, if they fell in love with it, they kept it. If they didn't, they put it back. But somehow it seemed to click, and there's a lot of familiarity. When we did the first issue, we put a lot of everything that we grew up reading and loving about comic books into the Turtles. I mean, superhero group, if you will, like if you're talking X-Men, Avengers, there's different personalities, and they all kind of gel together and give different perspectives when you're sort of taking your characters through an adventure, which I think resonates to, I don't care if you work at, Starbucks or Burger King, or, I worked in a pizza place when I was growing up. Your friends end up being this mix of people that, you have the leader type, you have the funny one, you have the, that kind of the techno geek. And so I think a lot of people could relate to it, relate to a different character, much like, I'm like, this character in the X-Men, or I'm like this character in the Avengers. But I think with the Turtles, because they weren't, any specific, black, white, Asian, Latino, anything, they were just these green mutant teenagers who wanted to be teenagers first, that I think it allowed more people to identify with them, worldwide. And so I think they feel like they weren't alienated in any way. It was like, well, I can be green mutant, and pick your favorite one. But yeah, it's a pretty amazing thing, in that, the fact that it worked as a comic book the first time, went out there, because, I think at the top of the sales of the comics, it was like 100,000 copies. That was huge in comics. And then when it went as a cartoon show, and it sort of caught on with kids like yourself at that time, suddenly it's reaching millions of people, and people are still finding something interesting about it, and they're attracted to it, and still, fond of it, the movies and all that stuff. So the fact that it worked in all those different places in the early days was, mind-blowing, humbling, amazing. We couldn't believe it. It was just fantastic with the whole thing that happened, and then it just didn't stop. It just kept going. Our licensing agent back in the day said, that as we went out with the Turtles, he said, well, if this works, the first year you have like an introductory year to your characters, and if fans like it, then you have a second year, probably a more popular year, selling toys and cartoons and that kind of stuff, and then the third year, you're in the discount bins, and it's all over. But it's been a great ride, so save your money, save your money if you make any. And now here we are, when I go to shows now, it's like there's a whole other new audience of kids, not only here in the States, but around the world, that have discovered the Turtles and have somehow fallen in love with, what aspect they found interesting in them, and that's even more mind-blowing. It's like, kind of stuff, but wow. So it's a pretty amazing. So,
thank you.
But what it is about them that made them, people like them, I almost asked you, and thank you again. I wouldn't be sitting here 31 years later still talking about Turtles, if not for you guys.